Welcome to an audiobook entitled Parish Management and Operations. The Buck Stops Here. Narrated by Catholic author Michael Brinda. We hope you enjoy the segment and find it useful in your ministerial work.
Chapter 52. The Bottom Line on Execution. As a hypothetical discussion, at a glance and without stating a specific context, one could argue robots are clearly better than humans when it comes to achieving superior execution. But this is actually an illusion in our PMO context. How so? Because all that typically a robot lacks is precisely what we need in order to deliver superior PMO. Specifically, we need creativity, spontaneity, and an emotional human-to-human connection with those we serve based on love of neighbor and the complete teachings of Christ. Thus, the PMO administrator seeks in their employees and volunteers the heart and spirit of a servant's soul, coupled with an internal desire to deliver the most superior service they possibly can to those we are dedicated to serving. No matter the size or importance of the task, we are looking for people who do not need constant supervision and oversight to excel, but if and when supervision is required, we acknowledge the first line of supervision is not the voice of the PMO administrator, but the silent and nevertheless ever-present voice of the proper culture. You will find that establishing the proper culture makes your PMO administrator focus on superior employee and volunteer execution vastly easier. Whatever time you put into setting the culture will come back to you more than tenfold in decreased time spent focused on solving execution problems that never should have occurred in the first place. But given this clear truth, why do administrators eschew proven techniques? Because when poor execution is noticed, it necessarily triggers a duty in the administrator to correct the problem. And it doesn't take the proverbial rocket scientist to figure out that correcting the problem might not be the most fun, comfortable conversation in the world. In other words, our PMO administrator rationalizes, I'm busy over here right now doing such and such that is more important than addressing Sam or Susie about whatever I see that's terribly broken. I'll speak to them tomorrow. Of course, we already know how this story ends. Tomorrow never comes. So let's not sugarcoat reality here or pretend we don't see the real execution elephant in the room labeled caution, potential if not probable confrontation coming up ahead. Because when you break it down, the bottom line of what we are talking about in achieving superior results is derived from achieving superior execution, and all things being equal, achieving superior execution is simply a contest of wills, your will or the employee or volunteers, but only one will prevails. Whenever I find broken execution after adequate training has been provided, I know one thing. The will of the employee prevailed over the will of management, and any administrator who permits this scenario doesn't deserve the title or the job. However, those so inclined who desire to avoid the inevitable and unavoidable conversations with underperforming employees and volunteers should feel at ease here. No worries, under one caveat. Anyone who does not want to deal with the confrontation that inevitably comes with rebuilding any organization, taking it from brokenness to superior execution, as previously stated, must decline the PMO administrator job. Do not allow your name to be placed in the PMO administrator box on the organizational chart. For the good of the parish, you must be honest with the person offering you this position and decline to accept for the various reasons cited above. But mostly, the worst thing you can do is accept a job, occupy the box on the organizational chart, and give the illusion to those above you that the position is covered when it is not, and you know in your heart you have no real intention of doing the job that is required. That is not ignorance or on-the-job incompetence. That is sin animated by dishonesty. Chapter 53. Purpose of Planning Tools. First, a quote from Steve Jobs. Technology is nothing. What's important is that you have a faith in people, that they're basically good and smart. And if you give them tools, they'll do wonderful things with them. End quote. Regarding execution, we have established that a firm resolve to execute perfectly is a prerequisite to any holistic system of management. It is a wonderful sentiment, but now what? Execute what? With what? Who? When? Why? To what ends? Applying your willpower, your commitment to execute perfectly, and your strong desire to execute in a superior manner is utterly useless without the guidance and vision afforded to you by well-crafted plans. Therefore, we create various PMO plans in order to address a variety of diverse PMO issues through both short and long-term plans, each customized to the issue to be addressed, but not always necessarily complex, lengthy, or overly time-consuming to create. Do not cringe at reading or hearing words written plan, and do not equate by default planning with any specific page length or specific amount of time to create. Further note, a handwritten plan is still a plan. No need to master using another piece of specialized planning software. A quote from Benjamin Franklin. For every minute spent organizing, an hour is earned. End quote. What is strategic planning? Thinking, then writing it down. That's it. Strategic planning is thinking, then writing it down. Why is strategic planning so important? The obvious answer is that your plan becomes your blueprint for execution in comprehensively addressing all things PMO. Your plan provides the overall direction, precise directives to name personnel, and an operating timeline to completing specific efforts. However, although this is the obvious answer, it is also the secondary answer. What is the primary reason we must create a plan? Do we create a strategic plan because traditional thinking demands that we do so? No. Do we write a strategic plan because everybody else creates a plan? No. Why do we create a plan? We create a plan in order to learn and discover. But to learn and discover precisely what? First, the obvious answer. We plan in order to discover and learn more about that which we do not yet fully know, that we must know in order to successfully complete the task at hand. In other words, we plan, and in the process of creating the plan, we will learn new stuff. Fine. But these are secondary motives to creating a strategic plan. What is the primary reason to plan? The primary reason we must use all available tools in planning to always create a plan. And if you learn nothing else from this book, learn this, which is a quote from Will Rogers. It isn't what we don't know that gives us trouble. It's what we know that ain't so. End quote. Did you catch the nuance in the above remark? Did you catch the wisdom? Of course we create a plan and in the process learn what we must know regarding the who, what, where, when, why, and how to complete the task at hand. We want to fill in any gaps in our knowledge and understanding, so we create a plan, simple or complex, short or long, or somewhere in between. In the process of creating our PMO plan, we learn. Fine, all fine. But relatively speaking, that is not where our worst landmines or future problems are to be discovered, our worst nightmares experienced or avoided. The real nightmares, the real landmines that will kill you and your PMO efforts are not what you don't know subsequently revealed by the process of creating a plan. The real landmines are what you think is so, that is not so, that in the process of planning you discover and reveal to your most inner self. A few headline examples now of the consequences when someone thought something was so that was not so. Hospital settles suit over removal of wrong lung. Good Samaritan shot by police after calling 911 to report location of shooting suspect. Passenger plane lands at the wrong airport after pilots ignore their cockpit equipment. Man who thought gun was unloaded shoots, kills himself while driving. Fukushima disaster was preventable, new study finds. Oh, you mean it's not so much what I don't know and never will know and never knew that will give me the most grief? It is what I think is so that is not so, that is what will kill me? Exactly. Assuming they know something to be true, accepting and believing what is so that is not so, and subsequently failing to plan. Meh, who needs a plan for that? This is precisely how PMO administrators drive themselves off a cliff, along with all those who report to them. The creation of any strategic plan, when done diligently and with an open mind, not with a "why bother, I already know the answer" attitude, will reveal to the open-minded PMO administrator an item that they thought was true, sincerely believed was true, thought they knew all about, that is not really true at all. What at first glance or even final assumption appears to be the obvious answer is not only not always the obvious answer. This so-called obvious answer might blow up in your face because your failure to use the available tools to create a plan inhibited you from discovering a critical truth. And what critical truth is that? That something you assumed, believed, thought was true, pick whatever word you want, was not actually true at all. A quote from Marcus Aurelius: "The secret of all victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious." End quote. So, for example, you green-light the roofing contractor to start work on replacing the old and leaky parish hall roof. Halfway through the project, you're served a notice by the city to stop work. Why? You did not request a permit. Why didn't you request a permit? Because, number one, you did not think a permit was necessary for this work. But even if it were necessary, number two, you incorrectly assumed the roofing contractor would apply for the necessary permits. The applied thinking formula here: wrong plus wrong equals wrong. Why? Because this contractor relies on the customer to pull all permits. But you did not ask, which is not the point. The point is, why didn't you ask? Because, number three, at the last location you worked, in a different city, county, or state, that locale did not even require a permit for the same type of work. Oh, you mean what you thought was true was not actually true? Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want, but so are scars, and I'm not particularly fond of acquiring those either. And so is the personal and organizational pain that often travels with its close friend, real-world experience. You assumed you knew what was so, and you skipped creating a simple and short plan, a process that would have forced you to ask and answer the critical permitting question. Instead of creating a plan, because that is simply what must be done by default thinking here, you allowed what you thought you knew to blow you up. And as is so often the case, you will usually blow up others with you. Instead of advanced planning, you found out by stepping on an avoidable landmine what you thought was so wasn't so at all. And you're pleased to the city for an expedited permit process? They go unanswered. It seems the folks in the permitting department are not so God-friendly, much less Catholic parish-friendly. Imagine that. And now you will enter the rainy season not just with a leaky roof, but with a completely missing roof. If you had created a plan and checked that what you thought was so was actually a fact, because the accurate completion of the plan would have demanded you check this point, you or whoever you delegated this planning task to would have discovered that in this city you need a permit for this work, plus your chosen contractor expects the client to pull all required permits. Now you must stop work on your roof, torn up and the rainy season approaching, and wait at an indifferent city bureaucrat's speed to gain the necessary permit before you can continue on with your work. And if you think the city department that issues such permits cares about your missing roof in the rain problem and will expedite the permitting process, think again. Oh, and as an added bonus, not really your parishioners will also pay a fine for beginning the work without having the required permit in the first place. Now, have a nice day, and remember this. This mess really did not occur because of what you didn't know. This mess occurred because of what you thought was so that wasn't, and you could have and should have discovered this. The only reason there is a problem at all is because by failing to plan, you created the problem. A quote by Lao Tzu, "Time is a created thing. To say, I don't have time, is to say, I don't want to." End quote. Fortunately for us, once you mentally commit to planning, during the creation and implementation of the plan, as well as ongoing daily PMO operations, we have various tools available to assist you with each phase. However, could you skip creating a plan? Yes, but you shouldn't. But what if you don't have time to make a plan? What if you are claiming to be too busy? Too bad. Find the time, make a plan, or delegate the planning task to competent personnel, but make a written plan. No matter the size of the task, make a plan, which loosely translates to think, but with a pencil in your hand. Do not move forward on anything significant in PMO without a written plan. Remember, not all plans are necessarily complex or take a great deal of time to create. Sometimes just mere minutes of clear-headed, focused thinking. Further note, accuracy does not necessarily improve with the length of the plan. There is no guaranteed correlation between how wordy a plan is and how accurate or useful it will be. There is also the unwise PMO administrator who makes the decision to view another parish from a distance, a parish that you know doesn't plan anything but yet is somehow flourishing, especially a parish that was formerly in some distress, and then you conclude, plan? They don't plan over there. Why should I plan? Meh, who needs a plan? I'm not going to bother with writing a plan. The fallacy in this thinking? Just because some other parish might have been granted a miraculous turnaround with a PMO strategy, without a PMO strategy or planning, doesn't mean that your parish will. And the more often you use the planning tools, starting with your mind and a pencil and layering on only more tools if need be, the less time creating your plan will consume. Planning knowledge equals cumulative experience, and the more you do it, the faster the process goes. Furthermore, the return on your invested time spent creating a plan will be well worth it in contrast to the time spent and potential money wasted from failing to plan and stepping on avoidable landmines. And as sure as you are listening to this book, the hidden landmines are out there waiting to be stepped on. Could you create a PMO plan to accomplish something without planning and without using planning tools? Of course, but after listening to the above, why would you want to? Do you think you have the experience of the strategic plan tool makers, such that you can create a plan in your head without the support and inherent step-by-step guidance such tools offer? Perhaps in your future, but probably not today. So for now, you must become well acquainted with these planning tools. Insofar as the tools support creating any plan, you might as well start with the mother of all plans, the Master PMO Strategic Plan. This plan will drive into smaller plans, will drive input into those smaller, less comprehensive plans necessary to achieve superior PMO, but they use the same underlying logic in their creation. If you create the master plan for PMO, you can easily create any sub-plans. And don't forget, if you align with other parishes, which is to say you are on the same holistic system page and speak the same PMO language and principles as articulated here, why reinvent the wheel? You can share the redundant workload and farm some of the planning work out in sections, each section done by a person best suited for completing that section. You can mutually share a strategic planning task, not that the results may be used verbatim, although they might be, but they would provide some useful initial guidance to your plan. To create a master strategic PMO plan, recall we must start with enhanced mission statement language that recognizes PMO, at least giving a nod to the existence of PMO as being integral to the overall mission of the parish. Without such a statement, how do you support your existence? What is your purpose in PMO? On what basis do you claim any authority to do anything related to PMO? From where do you derive your authority? Let's resume here. Upon arrival at your parish, all things being equal, there's no crisis, no emergency to attend to. This is your general order of work to creating and installing superior PMO. Parish mission statement, enhance it. Statement of culture, create it. PMO strategic plan, create it. Execution, do it. Live it. We have previously discussed the need for an enhanced parish mission statement. The PMO-related language in the parish mission statement essentially authorizes and enables PMO, indeed legitimizes our duty to do our duty, and to create our statement of culture, that animates how we will mentally approach everything we do in PMO. Now that we have a mission statement in place that declares providing superior PMO as a duty and obligation of the parish to its community, and we have a statement of culture that assists us in establishing the correct culture we need for superior PMO to take root and flourish, we need now a PMO strategic plan, a roadmap upon which we will execute.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.